Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you, and today we're looking at one of the better things, or one of the things that I enjoy most from Civivi over the last couple of years. Could it be the most perfect Civivi for EDC? I don't know. The backlash still kind of comes in there, and you know, uh, maybe edges this out a little. I'm not sure. But needless to say, this is a very, very nice knife, and it's certainly my favorite thing from Civivi in the last 3-4 years, because it does some things really, really well. So we'll get into all of that. The one thing I've got to say is it's another button lock. So there's been a real kick for button locks the last little bit. Kaiser's got some button locks. Civivi's done some button locks, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job. Previously, when I first got into knives, there was a bit of a button lock craze, but a lot of those had some up and down blade play because it's hard to get, or they eventually develop it because it's hard to get a button lock so precise and so consistent that it doesn't develop blade play. However, using an angled interface right back here has kind of fixed that issue, and so that's really, really welcome. And most of the button locks that I've seen that have been recent offerings have done that. So that's kind of nice. As is the micarta here, and as is the handle. I'm going to emphasize this handle quite a lot because this feels really, really good in hand. I do have the other Civivi button lock, the name is evading me right now, coming, and it looks to have a similar sized handle and be similar in, be kind of hand filling. This design does put me in mind just a little bit of the Shaman, although not nearly as heavy duty. This is pretty compelling to me because I tend to like larger knives, and I like knives that are more comfortable in hand, and this does definitely meet those requirements. Size and weight on this, it's not huge. It kind of has the design of a big beefy looking folder, but it's not that big at all. 8 1/8 overall, 3.5 inches on the blade, 4 9/16 when close. So that's just a little over 4.5 inches, so not bad at all. 3 3/4 inches of grip area. All right, so that's plenty of room for my size large hands, and it does feel so good in hand. I know I'm getting ahead of myself to ergonomics before it's time, but it does have a really nice feeling handle. And the weight on this is only 3.7 ounces, which, that's perfect. Like right in PM2 kind of territory, and everyone talks about, the PM2 paramilitary 2 being so good in terms of size and weight and performance. So that's a quick rundown. Size, weight is really, really nice. The blade on this is going to be a very dark stonewash drop point blade, not super thick blade stock here. Let's see if I can, there you go. So if I show you this, actually we talked about the PM2 a minute ago, so let me show you this beside a PM2 just to give you a reference point for that blade stock. Okay, so it's definitely on the thinner end of the equation. Now, that's okay. Like, this knife is not designed to be this big, beefy, hulking thing. That's why I pointed out it's not like the Shaman in that sense. It is definitely meant to be a slicer, a good light use EDC type of knife. And the Nitro V steel that this has is a good fit for that. The thin grind and the thin stock overall is also a really good fit for that. And the stonewash, I'm a sucker for satin blades, but the stonewash does look really nice and dark, and it really ties in to the black micarta on the handle really, really well. So, the blade choice, well, I tend to favor heavier duty type of stuff. I cannot really complain about this in all fairness. Nitro V steel is going to be great for corrosion resistance. It's not the best edge retention you're ever going to see, compare it to D2 or S30V or some of those ones, but it's certainly more than adequate for any of our needs in terms of, the knife community, guys who carry a knife on a daily basis. You're not going to have any real issues with edge retention from Nitro V, other than to know, yeah, it's not going to be S30V. All right. Button lock on bearings. All right. A very teeny little bit of, I don't know if lock stick is even fair, but it does take me just a little bit of effort to actuate that lock. Not a problem at all. The detent is great, I have to say. So this flips really well, and it also spidey flicks really well, and it also rolls out really well. So again, we've talked about this before on the channel. It is a bit of a balancing act to get a detent really, really nice in all of those different ways. It's often, if you want your knife to flick well, you want a stiffer detent, and that may mean, it's harder to flick out with a thumb stud, or it's harder to spidey flick. But this knife has done a really nice job of striking that balance. The other thing I have to say is, for a button lock, this is phenomenal. Now, that's maybe a little unfair of me to say that, because recently button locks have been better. Again, back when I first got into knives and I was getting first trying out some button lock knives, they were always kind of a smushy detent, but they've changed the way they do the geometry and the way they do the retention, and really made vast improvements along those lines. So I have to say, and this is so, well, I have to say, yeah, this has good detent. It's not fair to just say this does. Really, all of the button locks I've handled in the last, couple of years, maybe less, but all the more recent button locks tend to do a pretty nice job. All right, comparisons. I've got a few things that I want to throw in here. One is my Para 2. This is the S45 VN Para 2, and I did switch out these scales to, so I've got an MXG clip and Sharp Dressed Knives scales on this. Go ahead and check out Sharp Dressed Knives. He does such a great job, and I'm super stoked with this knife. Similar size, similar purpose. Obviously this is going to be quite a bit more expensive than this, especially by the time you do the upgrades that I've done to it. But if you're familiar, the reason I'm bringing this in is because everyone's familiar with a Para 2, and it kind of lets you know what to expect from the Conspirator. All right, let's get that one out of the way and bring in a couple of others. I've also got the Kaiser XL bag letter, which is excellent. This is my favorite of the recent button locks that have come out. Kaiser really nailed it with this. I will say 154, similar price point, but the steel is better on this. The action is better on this because of dual row bearings instead of single row. And the construction is a little heftier. So, you guys know me, I'm going to lean toward this knife a little bit more than this one, but okay, that doesn't mean that this is not a great knife. What else can we throw in here? Here is the Artisan Cutlery Arion. I think I'm saying that right. Pretty popular recent knife from Artisan. This one happens to be White Mountain Knives exclusive. Go over there and check them out, and you can save yourself a little bit of money using my discount code SHARPSTUFF. Again, similar knives, similar. It's a little bigger, a little thicker blade stock. A little more, a little more real estate for your fingers if you would ever need that. Similar price point again to the Conspirator. We definitely should bring in the Elementum as well. So I kind of feel like the Elementum had a lot to do with Civivi becoming as popular as they did. Wow, with Civivi getting on board with button locks, the button lock Elementum was wildly popular, still is quite popular. Similar price point again, 14C28N steel hollow grind, which I do like a little bit better. And so, I'm trying to give you guys a bit of a range here. Anyway, those are all of the comparisons that spring to my mind as being, really fitting for this. Obviously, we could bring in like a Malibu, and we could bring in a bunch of popular button locks, but one, I don't have those, and two, the price point would be not quite, I tried to bring in like sort of overseas produced similar action type of knives. So those are some options for you. What are my overall thoughts on this knife? I really like this. I mean, the design is very attractive. The feel in hand is really good. They've absolutely nailed the action on this. So for whatever deployment method you want to use, it just works really well. So for all these reasons, I do think this is a win from Civivi. I'm not loving, Civivi prices are creeping up a little bit. So I think these are around $60 or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong and it's like $50. But I think these might be closer to like $60, $65, which is not ideal. But that's really about the only thing I can make a major complaint about, unless you're watching this and you really highly prefer one of the other options I showed you, which is totally understandable. This is a pretty pretty nice knife, and I can see why this has been such a win for Civivi. If you do want to get one, you can go over to White Mountain Knives, use my discount code Sharp Stuff. I think they're probably sold out because everybody's sold out, but hit that notification, and they'll give you an email when they're back in stock. And then you can use the discount code and save yourself 10% off. All right, thanks a lot for watching. We'll talk to you soon.